Hello everyone, Conor here. Just as a small disclaimer, some things we may talk about on the pod shouldn't be attempted or recreated. Remember to keep everything legal, keep it between the hedges, and don't tear up the ground while you're on the pull. Hello everyone, welcome to the Limited Slip Differences podcast, the podcast where me and Michael talk about cars, farming and everything in between. Sorry, I'm called Conor too.
What's the crack, folks? How are we today?
What episode are we on now?
18.
This
is actually the second. So we're actually recording the first half, quarter, and the final quarter of the podcast now. And that's because we had our guest, Andrew Wright from Farm Theory. I can say it because I couldn't say it when we were interviewing him.
You'll hear that later on, possibly. Do they hear that later on?
Yeah, I know, that's how we start. So we've got that on, and it was class. I may actually have to do something kind of special with that particular. Jeez, Conor, are you tired?
He's been annoying me.
I was going to say, for those of you who see this in video, Conor's like poking away at his eye. If you're in Spotify, you'll wonder why I called him out. But no. So basically, look, the whole thing gets explained anyway. Andrew has caused a right bit of a stir on TikTok in the last couple of weeks or so. By the time this comes out, it'll have been the last couple of weeks. We recorded this with him last week. So,
and ironically, there's nothing basic about the chat that we get into.
I think I'm actually going to have to do something special with this one because it gets so technical and it went on for so long. Like, when we finished recording, I was like, shit, we've been recording for like 2 hours, and everyone was like, I thought this was only like 45 minutes. And like, I thought and we had like a technical error in the middle of it, and I thought that had only been recorded for like 10 minutes. No, it was nearly half an hour.
Well, just a wee insight, this is the most Michael's going to talk in this podcast.
Yeah, I honestly, so what I have to do, because it got so technical, I've had to cut a right bit out of it. I think what I'll do is probably do a special release with the full podcast where it gets really, really technical, because Conor and Andrew just talk about milk and parlours for ages. So if that's what you're into, I'm going to do a special release on that, maybe like a bonus episode. So yeah, that's the crack. That's where we're at.
So lad, what's new with you?
What's new with me? Speed Hunters feature.
That's right.
Yeah, so Cian Donnellan from Speed Hunters, he was at a rally last week, and then we've been trying to get this organised for a while now. Like, he had wrote to me after Dubshed, and he was like, we need to get something sorted, and then we planned for it, and then my turbo went bang. And then after that, the car was off-road till I got the new turbo and all sorted. And then...
You was mad, that's ages ago.
Yeah. And the car's been, since the new turbo went on, despite not being mapped, the car's been amazing ever since. And so finally, after a bit of... Because Cian's from Cork, it's not exactly just a small spin up the road. So...
6 hours
I would say, whenever Chris Fletcher done the feature for Fast Forward, I would say it probably took Chris less time to get over here from... Cumbria. No, sorry, he lives like an hour now. Probably took him less time to get here than it does for Cian to get from Cork. So, yeah. Cian ended up spending more time talking shit than actually taking photos. As you'd expect, Cian can talk a lot, I can talk a lot.
That's good.
There's a lot talked. And then had a few photos and wished Cian on his merry way. So, always good that way.
Lovely.
What else? So the feature will be out at some point. I don't know when. So we've been... Well, I say we. You did help one night. You might have seen on Instagram recently, and if you haven't seen on Instagram, why not? Go follow our page, at Limited Slip Differences, about the new podcasting chairs. So myself and Conor... We're going to move, so I'll talk a bit more about this in later stages and maybe in another episode whenever we finally get moved in. But at the minute, we're sitting, like, coming into winter this year, I have a couple of projects that I want to get to, and they're probably going to be a bit more long-term this time round, as in it's probably going to sit on the lift for, like, months, because that's how I do things.
The best way to put it is, guys, the podcast isn't anything massive or anything, but... it's sort of outgrown where we are, and by the time we get set up and everything going, we waste that much time, and with the time frame we have to do these things, it's just kind of getting a bit more impractical than it needs to be. So we're moving on to bigger and better things.
So we've it's going to be a bit sad at the same time, because like where we are in my shed, it's quite iconic. You know, you've got the banners. It's rough as fuck, which is kind of but it is, and that's kind of all about what we are. But
we're not rough as fuck.
Speak for yourself.
I watch you being rough as fuck.
Yeah, true. I am the rash one here. Like, so basically, we kind of want to like. My dad used to have a workshop, and it's been lying dormant for years, and it's like the perfect size to create a studio. And you may have noticed then that I had a surplus chairs or seats that were in my Sierra, and since I replaced the Cosworth seats with the Evo 7 Recaros, I kind of thought, well, I wanted to use like a Sierra rail anyway to mock something up. So the seats were there. Everything's a bolt up, but I've basically welded up a seat frame, and then we've also we're in the middle of making a sofa as well. So it's going to be a full new setup. I
can't even allow you to say it. No, we are not in the middle of doing fuck all squared. Michael is in the middle of doing stuff, and I am watching him.
So you're going to help me paint.
I'll do that.
You're going to help me paint. So
this past couple of weeks, Michael has been using a brush and grinder, and the outer bristles of the metal brush have been going under my legs. But you know what? Sure, we take all the pain and the heartache to make this better.
Well, it's just like...
Do you want to know one upgrade we're actually going to do?
What's that?
Heaters.
Aye.
Because
you know there's a heater behind you?
Aye, but you'd never hear yourself with that thing going.
No, we'd get carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, we don't need a day, like.
Well, speak for yourself.
Are you telling me you need a day?
Sometimes. So it's basically, I didn't really want to get into as much of the segment as that as I did, but I can't keep my mouth shut, and I've talked more. Planned on doing that, but yeah. Really exciting things to come. I don't want to be that guy that be's like, oh, big things coming, you ain't ready for this, all that, blah, blah, blah. But it should be.
You'll see it when it's ready.
It should be pretty cool, like, so we're looking forward to it.
Hopefully you like it, and it'll help with other aspects of limited slip differences, which you'll all see in the future
when we get round to it.
Aye,
because editing takes enough time as it is. Anything new with you, Connor?
Well, I was meant to go to Bishop's Court on Sunday. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
God help Stevie's not having a good time of it at the minute.
No.
You know you're having a bad day whenever you lose your keys.
Yeah.
He couldn't find the keys of the car. Tried to get something sorted. Didn't work out. I even borrowed a helmet off of yourself.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. So, really, bar that, what else has happened to me? And that pause would indicate nothing. Sorry, there is something new with me. I was blew away.
Where?
Fair play to Drift Masters, to Drift Games, and all the team associated. That Peggy Nardova, I think I've said the stadium right. That was a spectacle.
What about
of a drift event? Like,
what about Conor Shanahan?
He can cry, but he can also drive.
Fuck me, he can steer. Unbelievable. I was nearly in tears, like, whenever I seen it, the whole thing. Conor does wear his heart in his sleeve, like, and fair play to him.
I'll just before you go further, do you want to know what makes Michael cry? Bridgerton and Conor Shanahan. That's an odd duo.
It's honestly just like, you know, I don't really think there's anybody deserves it more. Like, Conor literally has put his life, I would say Conor's probably put his childhood on hold, really. Like, from the age of 12, 13, he's been driving. You know, he lives his life on the simulator.
I'm pretty sure last year too, he was one of the one of the leading drivers to win last year's championship.
Yeah.
And he had engine failure at the last round, and to see that, like, that man wore his heart in his sleeve that day, didn't hold back any emotions, and you could have cried for him.
Even like, but he's had bad luck this year, and I think that's nearly kind of what has propelled Conor on further and got so many people in his corner, is because like he has had a lot of bad luck too. Like, you know, he didn't even get a proper run of practice in the PGA Stadium or PGA.
Oh,
sure, yeah, you know, like I literally swapped the engine.
No practice and end on a 95
like
qualifying.
But that just shows you how like he literally spends his life on the simulator. Like, you know, you think about what a normal, like, yes, I know we all look at Conor probably and be like, oh, the man's drifting, he's living the life, he's driving, you know, a 2J GT86, like, he's living the life, like, he's got this, but, like, you know, obviously there's talent there, but we all know how big into the simulator he is. Like, how much time has he spent? Like, how many evenings of his life has he given up between either being out in the shed working on his car or sitting on a simulator, like drifting the same track over and over and over again to go out having not had any practice to do a 95 on a qualifying run.
Oh, it was unreal.
Like, unbelievable. So, you know, alongside Conor, a lot of other, like, when we watched the first Drift Masters, when we went down in May to watch the first, I won't say series, but obviously not series, the first round, like, Laurie Hanahan come second. And we kind of thought, like, that time Laurie Hanahan had maybe just...
To be honest, right, not taking anything away from Laurie, unbelievable sounding engine.
He's a great
He
driver.
sort of came out of nowhere in a way that like, he wasn't in my radar.
No, he was none of our radars. That's what I mean. Like, we all kind of thought, Jesus, this man sort of got himself in the second place. Then he qualified first in Sweden.
Yes. So you could nearly swear that his success from round one of doing well, then he gained the confidence.
Yeah.
Because he, and I suppose if you're looking at it in a well, it's going to sound biased towards the Irish drivers.
But we are Irish, so yeah.
Yes, but like round one, you know, he got, like, if you look at the battle between him and Dwayne, Dwayne obviously had the clutch failure.
Like, Dwayne probably would have won that entire event.
On the day, yes, he was.
Dwayne would have won that entire event.
The second round, Dwayne put him out, I think top 16. The
Possibly,
third round, Laurie put him into a wall.
Put Dwayne out?
I'm near sure I put him into a wall in Riga. I think that was round 3.
Round 4. Riga was round 4. Finland Power Park was round 3. Can't remember.
Round 4, yes, in Riga. And then round 5, then again, Dwayne's car broke.
Yeah.
And then Laurie progressed. And then the final round, he just
drove really well.
To be fair, a lot of the wildcard drivers were unbelievable too that day.
Yeah.
Like,
apart from Adam LZ.
We made a comment before on the Drift Masters episode back when we went to it. It was like, look, you see the top 32 and you see the top 16.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top 8 and then you really see the drive in the close battles and that.
Yeah.
I can safely say from
round 3 onwards,
pretty much
every battle was a final battle.
You know, and funny, I see a lot of comments see that the judges seem to be biased to the Irish drivers.
Just
whenever there's only one Irish judge.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the championship's owned by the Polish.
Yep.
Probably had a good hand then, obviously making it, you know, the big spectacle that it was at the last round.
Then they said about how they were against Peter Wojcik. And it was like, Peter Wojcik technically owns the championship.
Did you see he broke a suspension arm
and still tried to drift?
Yes.
What a nut job. Do you know what? I love Peter. I think he's class.
Like this,
he's one of my favourite drivers. Like,
oh, easily,
but
yes.
Do you know what the sad thing is about all of us? Like, Conor Shanahan and indeed James Dean, but Conor Shanahan at the minute is, like, as it stands, achieving one of the highest levels in his entire career in terms of sports, and that won't even have made like the news.
Well, like, I seen there they had a homecoming in his local village.
Him, Jack and James drifting through the town.
That was class.
That was class. Kieran Murphy actually sent me that and he was like, you need to put this in the pod, and I was like, I'm ready over it.
But I suppose, right, so it's not to say anything against Adam Zaleski, but he won the European Championship years ago.
Yes.
And I think it's possibly part of it is due to mechanical failure.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you really sort of look at it, has European drifting got that good that someone that did win it years ago now can't actually get within the top 5?
Absolutely. 100%. European drifting is where it's at. The Europeans in general, like, I know for years, like, we've always went, oh, the Irish are the best. The Irish are the best drifters. And, I mean, you can look at Conor Shanahan and go, yeah, we are. But, like, the Polish, like, the Dutch,
the Finnish,
like, the Swedish, like, they're all coming at us now.
Well, the scene there, Kalle Rovanperä.
Yes.
So we won the WRC championship.
Yeah.
And I literally went and done a 99-point run in Drift Masters.
So I was actually talking to Cian about this, and Cian said, like, he got chatting to him at one of the rally stages he was taking, maybe Monte Carlo, and he was chatting to him, and he said, like, all the rest of the press have been coming up and asking Kalle about, like, what's this, what's that, and then Cian went up and said, hey, Kalle, you know, I hear you've now been testing out a GR Supra, and apparently then Kalle was like, yeah, the car's really good, it's really fun, all this, and like all the other press were looking at Cian and going, how's he getting this man to talk? Because the rest, all of them were asking him the same question, how do you feel about the rally, how do you feel about the stage, and Kalle Rovanperä, I'm assuming he's Finnish.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so the Finnish don't really talk that much. It's kind of their style.
To be honest with you, like, I follow him on Instagram and he seems like such a cool lad. Him with the mullet and all, like, he seems like just a lad.
Just
But he, you know, nothing to take away from anyone else, but like, what I mean is, I've seen comments going like, the Finnish have not seen anything like him for the age of him and his driving.
Yeah.
But anyway, not to take away from anything else, we were talking about Conor Shanahan.
Yeah. So
his top 4 battle was unbelievable.
Unreal.
And then it's like, how can he contain the motion for the final?
I was so scared. Like, I was sitting watching that final run, like, literally speechless. Like, I was just like, he's either going to, like, when it was against Korpolinski, like, I was like, he's either going to win or he's going to bust, which obviously, but he was never going to do a safe run. It was either going to be, he was going to put that car on the door and he was going to stay there, or he was going to put that car on the door and maybe go in too hard and have to brake and straighten.
But, like,
you know,
Korpolinski was driving insanely well too.
If Korpolinski had won, you wouldn't have said that's fluke. You know,
no, definitely not.
His driving was up there as much as anybody's.
But the final run, that chase driving, like, I know you said before that the best chase driving you've seen is Conor versus Dwayne in the stadium years ago when he was driving the S13 and James was driving the S14.
You said Conor versus Dwayne, Conor versus James Dean.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Was that Riga?
No, that was, I think it was Poland.
Oh, it was Poland. That
3 or 4 years ago.
It was 20. Yeah. 2019 maybe.
That final chase run was.
James Dean just couldn't.
No.
Couldn't compete.
Laurie couldn't compete.
Oh, I thought you meant that time
yes.
in Poland. Yeah. Aye.
But like, as Kevin O'Connell said, like I can't even say anything about that.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah. Unbelievable. He has, in my opinion, cemented himself as the best chase driver in the world.
On that day, yes.
I just think he is. He has proven himself as to be the best chase driver on so many occasions.
To be fair, the other Irish ones, Jack, didn't seem to be on his day at all.
No one kind of pretty much ruled himself out of the championship with that moment.
Dwayne,
otherwise, we could be talking about Jack. Dwayne has had no mechanical luck. Now, we're Dwayne sympathisers, let's be honest.
Oh, we are big time. Like,
you know, given our location, we are Dwayne fans.
Yes.
Yeah, big Dwayne fans. Like, so, it was pretty
hopefully
shady.
he gets reliability sorted for.
Fuck, he'd need to.
The car put him out.
Yeah.
More than
it wasn't anything
for him to finish 6th in the championship, even after all his bad luck.
He's done pretty well. Like.
He has, surely. And at the end of the day, if them things hadn't have happened, you never know. But Conor definitely, you know, he deserved after that driving anyway in Poland. And to be fair, like, if that's where drifting is going,
I can't wait to see what
someday.
happens next.
It would be nice, not for the FIA to come in with a rule book and make all these changes, but for it to become the big spectacle that it really is.
For the FIA to stand back and go, okay, we like how everything's so different.
And fair play to Budmat and all that.
Yeah.
That to put all the effort in for that.
So normally this section, which we've kind of discussed, would be within our big old skid, but because there's just so much to talk about, we've kind of done a subsection. But to move on, our guest tonight is Farm Theory, or Andrew Wright, if you know him personally, which we now do. Absolute gentleman, incredibly intelligent guy, has a very, very different outlook on farming, I would say, compared to most farmers.
All I'm going to say is this. He's one man, and there's not many farmers that have really left me, because I've heard this way and that way quite a lot of the time. But he sort of was like, no, if you look at this or if you look at that, he backed everything up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I came away from that conversation going, wow.
So without further ado, here is the episode with Farm Theory, and it's a good one. So you're going to hear the swish noise now. Well, we're here now, as you've probably already heard me mention at this point.
We're all sitting here beside microphones, so obviously, yes, we're here.
We've got Andrew Wright with Farm Theory with us. Farm Theory with us this week, and I'm already struggling to say things.
So we bit of a tongue twister there, Michael, isn't it?
I thought I had
no
it nailed.
Andrew.
I've been saying it so many times, Farm Theory, but I just literally came on the spot, and turns out I can't say it. So
I was no good at the driving theory test, but maybe Andrew would be sort of.
I've never heard anyone struggle to say it before, so
yeah.
Well done, Michael.
There's literally
this is why you're not a farmer
for sure
anymore.
So yeah, look, we kind of talking to Andrew during the middle of the week, and basically Andrew has lit up massively on TikTok, and I had guys in work literally coming up to me and saying, you should get him on. And then I started watching your videos, and I was like, yeah, I do need to get him on. So, well,
I'm surprised that people were coming up to you.
Yeah, no, honestly. So literally I had a couple of guys in the same, because I used to work in your brother's team in work, you see, and I literally had, you should get Duncans Brother on. And I was like, who's Duncans Brother? And they were like, Duncans Brother, he's really big in TikTok. And I was like, right? And they were like, I'll get you his name, Farm Theory. And I was like, that's Duncans Brother.
No, Duncan's complaining away because he says all he ever goes to work to chat about is me now. So I had great enjoyment telling him I was coming to do this.
You're famous.
Oh, I right enough, because you would have been saying
yeah, I know it really annoys Duncan, so that makes it even better. I always steal all his clothes, and I was trying to wear a t-shirt of his just to annoy him even more, but I couldn't find it. It was in the wash. So.
I'm sure he'd maybe sitting in the background going well, he is bigger. He's a big boy, so.
Yeah, no, it's.
You are taller, so you probably would fit it.
I'm also heavier than Duncan, much
what?
Yeah.
Oh, well, not like that.
No, he won't. He doesn't like that. No. Now I've told everyone, he'll be so angry.
So, look, you've caused a bit of a stir on TikTok recently.
It's been a crazy, crazy week. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we've been watching your stuff and it's just been yeah, there's quite a lot of intense things going on there. But we will get to that in a bit. I suppose before we get to that, let's actually just kind of want to find out. We'll talk about your story a bit. We'll kind of get on. So, Conor, do you want to start leading with the questions? Because I'll probably blank and make mistakes again.
Well, you couldn't say
I couldn't say
his
Farm
social
Theory.
media name, yes. So, Andrew, what kind of farm do you have? Because you obviously have a farm called, because you're Farm Theory.
Not necessarily.
No, farm. Well, yes, I'm a farmer. Dairy farm, 180 cows, 460 animals. 350 acres we farm.
You have a good outlay.
It's a pretty big farm, yeah.
That's actually...
Is it much con acre from your 350 acres?
150 of it. So we own 200.
Good enough. That's a nice number.
That keeps me busy. I've been home full time 12 years, done a degree in agriculture at Queen's.
The Queen's one, done it myself as well.
Yeah, my brothers like to try to say I went to Greenmount, but
No, it's through Queen's.
I remind them
it's
through Queen's. Yeah. So done that. At the end of the time at Queen's, I sort of had a big decision to make. Do I go get a job or to do research or to go home to farm, and I decided I'll come home to farm if I don't do that first. I'm very unlikely to quit a job to try farming.
Yeah.
Came home to farm and very quickly loved it. And the part of it I loved was that the challenge, the business side, trying to turn something around, make money, that was the part I enjoyed.
Because we were sort of talking about this kind of off air. Like, most farmers you talk to, especially when you watch, like, you were on Farm Flicks as well, and like kind of a lot of the guys you talk to would be like, yeah, you know, there's no real money to be made in it. I just love farming. You know, it's just in the blood. And you're very much of them, like, kind of like farming. It's a business.
Yes, I'm the total opposite to that mentality.
Yeah.
If I wasn't making money and I didn't enjoy farming, I would have no problem deciding, right, I'll do something else.
Was it the challenge that made you love it?
Yes, you're spot on.
Was there was it a hard adjustment period when you first went home?
I think what happened to me was...
He's still adjusting.
I'm still adjusting. I think what happened to me was whenever I was at uni, we went to see all of these really good farms. Like, they would have taken you to see the best farms in the country. And no one ever made clear to me just how much these guys had achieved. So me being young and fairly arrogant, some I would say I haven't lost that, but I came home and I was like, I'll have this farm performing just like them guys within 2 years. And then I got the shock of just how difficult a farm is to turn around. Mm-hmm. And it's trying to like turn around a giant container ship. And it really took me 7 or 8 years to get the farm to a point where I was like satisfied with its performance. And it was way longer than I thought. It was way more difficult than I thought. People have no idea how difficult farming is.
Well, out of curiosity, so obviously you went home to farm after Greenmount, but when you went home to farm, was always a dairy farm then, yes?
Always a dairy farm.
Did you have to sort of, like, before you went home, did you take much of an interest in it?
I did. I suppose my time at uni, I started trying to work out how much everything was costing, work out my cost of production. I went really into detail on the financial side.
Yes.
So whenever I came home, the first year I was home, we done benchmarking, which is just comparing yourself to other businesses. And we benchmarked in the bottom 25%. We were taking negative litres from forage. So all of the grass, all of the silage we fed to our cows, we were getting 0 litres of milk from all of that. That was just to maintain our animals. So every single litre of milk that we produced when I came home was coming from concentrate, like meal.
Yeah.
So today,
supplements, essentially.
Yeah. And that's expensive.
Yeah.
Well, were you a 2-cut system then whenever you went home?
We were a 2-cut system primarily, and then we would have done a little bit of 3rd cut. And it took me the 7 or 8 years to get to like 2,000 litres milk from forage, and today we're sitting between 3,000 and 4,000 litres. Whenever you're operating at that sort of like high level of milk from forage, if you have a bad year, it can tank you 1,000 litres really easily. So there's a big range there, but we're sitting around the 3,000 to 4,000 litres, which is pretty good. That's where the profit comes from with our business.
Well, there's one thing, Andrew, I have to say. I'm a dairy farmer too, but I haven't a clue compared to yourself.
I think if I was kind of taking your approach, I'm quite focused on the numbers too. Like even for all the small bits and pieces I would do, like I write down, I calculate everything from the meal I've bought to the fertilizer till like what I've done, and everything is wrecked. Like I tally it all up and mark it against the animals to find out what is my true like cost and how much are you actually making. And not very much is really the answer. Like, but
so. Andrew, whenever you came home, what was the first big sort of change you made to make the business more profitable?
Well, our biggest problem was our milking parlour. It was a 8-point swing over. It was 30 years old.
Jars?
Jars, yeah.
What make?
De Laval.
So Alpha Laval?
Yeah, Alpha Laval. Yeah,
we're going back.
That's what
my granda built it in the late 60s. So it's very, very old. At the time, it was the most modern parlour in the country.
Yes.
It was just never changed.
So that was our... Were the feeders or anything quite upgraded in it? Or
they were upgraded. They were vacuum feeders, blue ones.
Orby ones?
No, they weren't. They were the Alpha Laval ones.
Oh, right, yes, okay.
But that was our big bottleneck. That was our problem. And I knew that was our problem. And I remember it was probably year 1 or 2 of being at home having a conversation with our bank manager. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking of building a new milking parlour. And he was like the toughest bank manager that we've ever had, but that was a really good thing in hindsight for me. And he was just basically like, no, you don't make enough money, you can't afford it. So all of the first couple of years, because I couldn't spend money to improve the business, it had to be efficiencies and saving money and cutting costs. And it meant that by the time the milk price crash hit in 2015-16, after quotas had lifted, our business was an extremely efficient farm because I had been spending 4 or 5 years just trying to cut costs already. So we got through that really nicely. And I think year 2 after that, when milk prices recovered, that's the point where I had a good enough business to start planning and investing and spending some money.
Well, was it through better breeding?
No, it wasn't, although breeding was a big challenge, but breeding took longer to fix. Really, it was making better silage and improving grazing management. They were the 2 things which had like a transformational effect. So that milk from forage figure, it sort of encompasses all of that hard work into one figure, which is why I like it so much.
Well then, would you try and get out middle of March to start grazing, or earlier than that?
Middle of March, yeah.
Middle of March.
Yeah.
Jesus, our guys would need armbands if they're around here.
Oh, I will be probably, if not the first out around our area, one of the very first. And I take the approach of, if I destroy fields, I can reseed them. So I'm pretty sore on ground, but I do a lot of reseeding.
You do a lot of ploughing.
Well then, would you reseed 10% every year?
Last year we reseeded 75 acres out of the 350, but this year we've only done 20. So we try to do 15% a year, but it is very difficult.
Would you done a lot of clover in the sward then to try and reduce fertiliser costs?
No, we don't, because we use such a high rate of fertiliser that clover doesn't survive.
Why? What would be your, like...
So we're on our grazing platform around the house. We're limited by what we can graze.
Yes.
And we are stocked at 6 cows a hectare. So your typical Irish dairy farm that grazes a lot, they'll be stocked at something between 2 and 3.
Yeah, so it's basically a cow an acre. So
yes, so we're
2.44. So
yes, so we're well above that. We've over double the cows per acre.
Yeah, that's
so
what I meant. Yeah, that's
we
what.
have to grow a heck of a lot of grass.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also are very, very intensive on our silage system as well. And again, it's because land is our limiting factor.
Yep.
So we try to maximise what we take off the land.
So basically you're constantly reseeding to get the goodness always out.
Yes, exactly.
Before it goes fallow, as they talk about.
Yes, and again, that came from doing the costs. I costed grass from every single field every single year for like 4 or 5 years. A lot of this stuff I don't do anymore because I've learned the lessons. I don't need to waste my time doing it. But what I learned from that was that the cost of reseeding is tiny. You need a very small increase in yield to pay for it.
Well, do you plough or do you man-till?
We always plough. Again, because your cost of ploughing in the cost of reseeding is even tinier. So you need a minuscule increase in yield to pay for that ploughing. And it will absolutely deliver that yield.
You just need to be good at ploughing. I
hate ploughing. I bought a plough and I thought I was going to love it. And like I wanted a plough for years. And after the second day of using it, it's like I've almost got a phobia of it now.
I honestly think if I was asked to do any job on a farm, I think ploughing would be probably pretty much at the bottom of things I'd be jumping in to do.
It's the setting of the plough.
I think you would like ploughing.
No.
Really?
I just leave it to...
It's just too
they
slow.
do a good enough job.
It's just too slow. I have a 4-4 reversible plough, and I guarantee you in the next year or 2 I'll have sold it and bought myself some ridiculous sized plough out of England just to try to make the job speedier.
So you'll have to do a lot of efficiency.
You made yourself more efficient by growing better grass.
Yeah.
And getting it actually out through the leaders of the cows and making the cow more efficient through the grass system.
I made more money by cutting costs. So we still have quite weak output, although recent years output has improved. But we are a weird business in that we are low input and medium output. But I want to try to grow the output side.
All year round calving?
No, 2 batches, 40% autumn, 60% spring.
Makes sense.
I like to keep it that way as well, just for a labour perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
I make a lot of my decisions are actually based on labour and work. So like people always ask me, why do I graze my cows? The entire reason is for labour. It's much less work.
Mm-hmm. Do you strip graze then?
Paddock graze.
Paddock graze.
Yeah.
Well, then, are you breeding more of a British Friesian type cow then for a bit of hardiness?
No, we're purely Holstein. Although my breeding policy has totally changed in the last 12 months. I would have been a big fan of genomic bulls. I would have been buying 6 or 7 a year, and I have software which picks my bulls for me, my own software, and I track the proof runs, and I have done for the last 6 or 7 years. I just scrape the information off the Holstein UK website.
Yeah.
And whenever I looked back on the bulls I bought and I was buying them on genomic figures, I just realised last year that I was putting all this effort into selecting bulls, matching them to cows, getting cows scored, and I was using figures which were total nonsense and would change like more than you can imagine. So I am only proving bulls now, and I have no intention of going back to genomics. I got unlucky, to be fair, but
you learned from it.
It cost me a heck of a lot of money.
Yes.
Like, we're talking potentially tens of thousands of pounds. And there's no way that I could have known that the bulls I picked were going to be the ones that would have tanked so badly.
Uh-huh.
So I cannot take that risk again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually building an app with a friend of mine which is going to allow farmers to track bulls. So you would just search the bull's name that you've bought. You just hit a button and track it, and it will update and show you every time a new proof run comes out the changes. And eventually, after a few years, you'd be able to look and say, I bought that bull, this was his figures, he now is like this. And that is going to destroy genomics if people use it.
That leads me on actually quite nicely then to what I was going to interject here then. So you talked about the app. That's where the YouTube name and the TikTok name has all come from, is Farm Theory, which I said this time properly.
You did.
So,
but you're wrong. It didn't come from technology. Have you ever heard of game theory? No. Right. Game theory is like this idea that if you have enough information, you can make the perfect decision, or like maybe if you have enough information, there's only one decision you can make. Like there's one obvious.
Yes.
Yeah. But you need enough information to be able to do that, and sometimes it's not the obvious decision.
Okay.
So whenever I was collecting all the information for the farm, my goal was to collect enough information that I knew the perfect decision.
Okay.
So that's where Farm Theory came from, was a play on game theory, but no one ever has heard of game theory. And like, I get a wee bit obsessed with game theory. I love it, but...
Well, obviously you do something other than farming. Like you're coding in that. Where did you learn that?
So after I finished uni, I just happened to be watching BBC Click one night, and the original Raspberry Pi had just been released, and I seen it on the TV, and I got up and went and bought one, and that started me down a rabbit hole of computer coding. That evolved then into building my own farm software, because I wanted to be able to collate all of this data that I was collecting and trying to get the perfect decision. Farm theory, game theory. So I spent a lot of time coding, and then I started building some hardware, trying to solve problems on the farm. And eventually we ended up a few years down the road with a fully complete software package for the farm, which I still use today. I don't have to do anything with it. It just works. And that's when I started my GPS systems.
So what was the very first thing you produced?
Very first thing I built was an electronic laser-based plate meter. And it worked really well. But I then realised after the first day of using it that I could not be bothered plate metering my grass.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just do it by eye. So plate metering is where you basically go around the field and just plonk this stick down, and a plate pushes against the grass, and then that tells you the height.
Yes.
So I spent weeks and weeks building this thing because I was new to electronics, so everything was just a nightmare and took ages. And I finished the product, YouTube, and I was super proud of it. And after the first day, I realised, I'm not doing this. This is way too much work.
But sometimes you need to do the things, like I say this, like when we talk about other things, sometimes you need to talk out and sometimes do the bad ideas to realise that it was a bad idea.
Yes.
So you know, I don't need to do that. It's probably not a waste.
No, it's not. And you need a project. If you're going to learn anything, choose a project.
Yeah, because then it strives you to do something.
Yes, and I am stupid enough to be overambitious with everything I do. So my second project, I made electronic movement collars, like the Gia heat detection collars. That was my second project. And it worked, but it didn't work well.
Yeah.
So I was detecting heats with software, but they were heats I would have seen anyway.
I was going to say, there's probably too much variance for them to work.
Yes, for my knowledge at the time, I see why it didn't work now. If I went back to it today, I'm confident I could build a really good system, but there's so many other competitors that it's not worth my time.
It just wouldn't be cost effective.
No, I try to build things that I have no competitors, because then I can have a margin.
So there's one thing I will say. So obviously you're collating all this data. It clearly makes you more interested in the cow.
Not really. No.
Not really. No.
No.
Well, we done a lot of home improvements there last year, from heat detection to new milking parlour, and I would definitely say I became more interested from knowing more about the cow.
Yeah, I'm definitely not, as the word goes, a stock man. You know, my dad is a stock man, as people say. I
wouldn't claim to be one either.
No, it's probably my weakness. Like in a farming context, is I'm not very good with attention to detail with the cows, animal health. It's just not what I'm good at. I'm good at the overarching business, costs, pricing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty handy to have my dad to look after all that stuff, because if he wasn't there, dear knows what would happen.
You're talking about him just having the eye, quote unquote, the eye for cattle.
Yeah, he just looks at them, whereas I'm running about all the time.
But how long is your father farming now?
1976 to now. That's a long time.
Aye, it's a few years.
So give yourself, say, another 10 years.
I don't know. I think I'll have to hire someone to do it, to be honest. It's just not I'm just not that sort of mindset.
Yes.
I'm too busy. I'm just run about with numbers in my head, if that makes sense.
Yes. So, how many years were you home from Greenmount then?
Queen's.
Well, I did. I did the Queen's degree too. To be fair, you were more often at Greenmount than we were at Queen's, but we'll not go there.
We'll not go there yet.
How many years were you home then before you did put in a new parlour?
So I came home in 2012, and then in 2017, the Tier 2 grant scheme of the Farm Business Improvement Scheme came out. So that was a 40% grant on large capital items, and I applied for it. It got held up in planning for
surprise.
A ridiculous reason. I actually avoided the whole NAEA trap by sending a letter with my application to say there's no animals in here, so you shouldn't have to do ammonia modelling on this. They passed it, but then they got scared that they were doing it wrong, so they set it on a shelf for a year because they didn't know what to do. So by the time I got planning and got the grant back, it was 2019, 2 years later. And then by the time we were milking, it was March 2020.
You went for what type of parlour?
We put in a 40-point Gia, so that is 20 each side, so there's 40 spaces for cows and 40 clusters. That always confuses people.
What reason did you go for doubled up?
Because doubled up was, so the total project was £430,000 for the milking parlour. And doubling it up was adding, I think from memory, it was 38,000.
Yeah. That's really not a lot.
It's not that much.
It's not even 10%.
So the whole plant was 186,000. So 36,000 of that cost was to double it up. That sounds like a lot of money when you compare it to the total cost of the plant. The total cost of the project, it was under 10%.
Yeah.
And the increase in output was 20%. So you spend 10% more and you get 20% more output, and you can have a 3 metre wide parlour pit with nothing over your head and a really nice place to work. And you get a low line milk line, which means you can run a lower vacuum pressure, which means it's better for your cow's teats.
Out of curiosity then, with you maybe not doing the majority of the milking, have you had any complaints about your parlour with people that actually use it?
No. I've put in a fairly deep pit, so our pit is 1 metre deep.
But every single one of you as well?
No, my dad's short.
Oh, really?
Yeah, me and Duncan are 2 I'm 6'5.5". I always add in the half. And I have a girl who milks for me, and she's like, I don't want to offend her. She'll not see this. She's like 5'2" or something. I don't know, but she can milk fine, so it's not an issue.
Right. Well,
but if there's, it just she can't reach some of the buttons, which would be an issue. But there's always someone else there.
So obviously
I've never seen this man feel so left
he loves milking parlours, doesn't he?
He does love. Well, it's Connor's finally got someone who, because he can talk to me a bit about. Well, I don't really know anything.
You don't care.
I'm literally sitting here.
Saw the TikTok where me and him talked about it before. So I brought him down. Well, Michael came down to mine anyway, and he said, "Oh, I'll have a look at the new milking parlour."
He's back in milking parlours again, isn't he?
I thought,
but he went on. Where's the key at to the front box?
I wanted to look at the control panel,
and the thing was only fitted a week. And here's me just like getting nice and warmed into it, and Michael was looking to tear it apart.
Yeah, I was literally looking at it going, I want to see what software you're running, I want to see what setup you're running, I want to see like all your. I care more about and I think that's just because I'm a process engineer. Like, I care more about how does that valve work? What's your set points? Did you do this here? Like, when does this turn on? Why would you do that? That's the kind of stuff I'm into. I think I would prefer or enjoy building milking parlours than actually milking.
Well, you'd make a lot of money at it. The Gaia stuff is all ancient. Like,
really?
all of the Gaia stuff was made in the 90s and early 2000s.
Really?
And because it works, they just don't change it. Whereas Dairy Master's the total opposite. They build all their own stuff in-house. I'm right in saying that, aren't I?
Yeah.
And like, they're constantly updating stuff and changing stuff. So they're very different systems, even though they do the same job.
The one thing that got me was the 4x1.
Yeah, sorry, we need to move on. Oh yeah, you want 2x2. Dairy Master's bad for having 2x1. Hate to tell you. Really? Yeah, it's not good. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But how'd you get into YouTube then? Did YouTube come before TikTok?
No. Well, technically it did, but so I was like on YouTube like day one.
Yeah.
Whenever I was making my original silage videos when I was like 17, it was just me and this guy called, I think it was Mover, who is now Grassman.
Yeah, Mover was actually John McLean.
Was it?
Yeah, Mover was John McLean.
I did not know that.
Mover was originally John McLean's channel, then Gareth joined him, and then obviously the two of them have since parted ways. Gareth is now Grassman.
Wow.
Mover 2 become Grassman. So if you go through onto the Grassman page and go through all the old videos, a lot of that is actually videos John took.
Wow.
Originally, we learnt this when we interviewed Farmflix that time. It was interesting. But
that's my memory of YouTube back in the olden days. There was two people posting silage videos from Northern Ireland, Mover, and then I posted like some of the camcorder footage that my mother would have taken.
Yes.
And I think I done a video in like 2010 called Our Farm.
Right.
So that was my YouTube career. I posted a few videos every so often, but it was more just to record what I was doing.
Yeah.
I never put any effort into it.
Okay.
And then I started Facebook. Started Facebook because I went to a meeting with the Next Generation Forum, which is a thing I was involved with the Ulster Farmers Union. And there was a marketing woman there, and she talked about everyone should have their own brand, and you've no idea what this could grow into. You just need to do it. Stop making excuses. And I was like, fair enough. And I always wanted to do a page on Facebook for my farm.
Yes.
But what stopped me was I knew everyone would just give me so much abuse for it because it's Northern Ireland. If you try anything like that, you're going to get abuse.
We've said this before.
Yeah.
People like seeing you doing well until you do a wee bit too well.
Yes.
And suddenly people go, he's doing too well. We need to bring him down to earth a little bit.
So that was what was stopping me. But she convinced me in one half, and then I was chatting to two, I was doing like a youth football thing, and I was taking two of the 13-year-olds to the leisure centre, and I was just chatting to them, and they were telling me about posting videos on YouTube, and they were like, some people make fun of us, but we don't care because we enjoy it. And I was like, they're 13 and I'm like 25 and they have a better attitude to this than me. So then I went home and started my Facebook page, and I'd done that for like, oh dear knows how long, like 3 years. And then I just didn't suit Facebook. Just posting a photo and I just didn't. It wasn't my thing. I think I was always going to be better for video.
Interactive.
Yes. Yeah. So then TikTok came along, and a girl had milked for me. She still milks for me. She was like, she had a TikTok. She told me about it. I downloaded TikTok, and then we made a deal like I think it was January a year and 9 months ago, I think. And the deal was in the new year we'd both start TikTok.
Okay.
And I done it more just to give her the encouragement to start her own.
Fair play.
So I started TikTok, and then like it done pretty well.
Yeah.
Not like I got like 6,000 views in the first. No, the first video actually I posted on TikTok was me hitting my son in the head with a snowball, and it done really well. It went viral. So that's a lie. The first video I done ever on TikTok went really good. It was my most viewed video up until like 3 months ago. He was like 2 years old. It was very mean, but it was a great shot. I got him right in the head. Yeah. So that was actually my first video, but then there's a break then, and then my first video where I was like talking to camera was about my GPS systems.
Yeah.
And it done fairly well. I got like 6,000 views on it. At the time, I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
So
or
that started.
We currently think that's incredible, but
yeah,
anyway.
no, well, it actually is like 6,000 people to like see it in front of their eyeballs.
Oh.
But that started the journey. I kept posting stuff, and it took me a year to get to 5,000 followers.
Yeah,
on TikTok.
That's actually kind of, we're on a similar trajectory.
Yeah, and
We've had it now since February.
Yeah,
and we're nearly at 5.
That's good going.
5.
That's good going. So I would say my first viral video is this week. So I have been slow.
You've brought me on to what I was going
consistent.
To go next. Yes,
and what I think that has meant up until this week. I think at the start of this week I was like 17,000 followers. Now it's like 20. It's 22 today.
Chatting to you.
So, but I think that them 17,000 followers, they like all followed me.
That's organic
for the whole journey.
Yes,
they weren't like low value followers off a viral video.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Yep, it does.
So I think that's really helped me. Like people have said to me, like, why is your TikTok getting such consistently high views? And I answer them and say, I have absolutely no idea. And I think it's a combination of two things. I think one is that it's organic followers.
Yep.
So it's people who are following me and
they want to follow you.
They want to follow me, not just off the back of a viral video.
Yep.
And then also, I swear TikTok must have done something to my account, because the consistent high views make no sense. One of the best videos I done this year was a video of me talking in great detail about making silage.
Yes.
And how on earth does that video get 100,000 views?
Satisfying. I will tell you. So my fiance, she was never a farmer before she met me.
Yeah.
And she loves watching silage. She says it's so satisfying to watch.
No, you're misunderstanding. That would make sense. This is me on top of a sealed silage pit, talking about how to make good silage.
Oh yeah, no.
There's no machinery.
I know actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the one lecture I actually properly listened to when I started at Greenmount
was how to make silage.
Was how to make actually good silage.
Ironically, you should probably forget everything you learned there. But anyway.
Welcome to the real world, son. So this week then on TikTok,
yes,
you have kind of just went.
It's been ridiculous.
So it started off with, did it start off with you complaining about your red tractor?
No, I'll give you the full story.
Okay.
And it's almost unbelievable. But I'm in the Ulster Farmers Union Environment Committee.
Okay.
And on Sunday night, someone posted into our Environment Committee WhatsApp group about Lough Neagh.
Yes. That's a very, very controversial topic at the minute, yes.
And my principle in life is never trust anyone or anything. I question everything. So when I got this article and I read it, I was like, and I have enough background knowledge to sort of know if something sounds off. And I was like, this sounds off. So I started doing some research.
So what did the article say?
It was blaming phosphorus runoff from farms, from nearby farmland, for the current algae bloom.
Right.
Now, I knew that phosphorus had been stable for the last few years, but I knew that nitrates pollution has really dropped because of the price of fertilizer.
Price of fertilizer, and also people are now using dribble bars.
Yeah, that makes like no difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we all are actively pretending it does, because I've made a lot of money out of it.
It's just because the ammonia apparently is.
Yeah, see, the catch there.
That would have been my argument.
No, the catch there is, like, if you look at the government's research and published information on nutrient management planning, that documentation, RB209, it will tell you that there is essentially no difference in the amount of nitrogen captured using dribble bars. Okay?
Oh, okay.
But if you read another piece of research that is intended to support the use of dribble bars, it will tell you there is a huge benefit, right? So the piece of research to encourage people to use dribble bars, it has an objective.
Yes.
The piece of research which is just about nutrient management and trying to like accurately account for how much nitrogen you will get into a plant, it has no bias. It has no objective. Mm-hmm. It's the one telling the truth.
Okay.
It's fascinating. If I use a dribble bar, because I use a dribble bar on my farm, on a year, I would save £300 on nitrogen. I know people, but that is, if you work it all out, that is how much RB209 says the difference is.
I suppose my thinking was maybe like runoff as opposed to a splash plate.
Well, you're putting slurry in big lines on the ground instead of smaller splodges.
If you sort of look at ground when it's cut, you nearly think that the actual dribble bar is burning where it's...
Yes.
Because it leaves, literally.
Yes. And this is like, it's coming back in silage. It's causing mycotoxins issues. Listen, I've made a lot of money building orange boxes for dribble bars. So let me just rephrase this. Dribble bars are great. Okay? But the next thing will be they'll make us all use trailing shoes.
Yeah.
That's the next.
That's where it's going. Yeah. Absolutely.
But anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about your TikTok. So anyway, we got on to... So we're talking
Lough Neagh. Right.
Lough Neagh?
Lough Neagh.
I was going to say, is it next?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I started doing some research and I was going to make a TikTok video just about what I'd found and about the reasons for it. Mm-hmm. And on a really random Google search, and I actually know what it is because I looked it up today, I had searched historical temperature increase in Lough Neagh.
Okay.
I found this research paper. And that's the only way I found it after an hour of Googling.
Was that
to be fair, I Googled today, having watched your video.
Yes.
And it
comes up nowhere.
I had to end up going and looking at your piece and finding out who the authors were.
Yes.
And then I typed in the heading, so I can't remember what it was, something to do with the nutrients and all. And then the first person who read it was called Yvonne.
Yes.
And I typed that
It's really hard to find.
You had to get it on Muse. So yes. I got it, yeah.
Well, like, from knowing ones that are near it and that, and obviously it is quite a topic around the north regardless of where you're from.
It's very controversial. It's very hot. Like,
what I would think logically is if it was primarily the farmer's fault, it would be the same last year, the year before.
Correct.
And it would be getting slowly worse.
See, what has probably not helped the farmer's case, and to be fair, like, people are going to jump and blame the farmers, and when you see videos of a fella like out in a slurry tanker and blowing blowing slurry into the loch, you know, but you're nearly sitting going, I have no leg to stand on.
I don't know if they do though, but the councils put sewage into the loch.
Oh, there is sewage runs into the loch.
Oh yeah.
So that's even worse. Probably.
But my video. So I found this research paper, and what I then sent it into the group, and there's people in that group who have a lot of contacts, like pretty high up, and they sent it on to people who like are a definitive source, okay? And I got back a response, and I confirmed what I was saying was 100% watertight. So before I was going to make a video, I needed to be sure,
yes, of course,
that I wasn't going to be wrong.
Yep.
Because I hate saying this word, but like, I have tried to build a brand.
Yes, and you need to be credible.
I need to be credible. And one wrong move, you can lose a lot of credibility.
Correct. Yep.
So I made a video. It was totally counter to the narrative. Okay. And people have said to me, why did you not just show the facts? Why did you have to attack the media? Why did you have to say the things about the BBC and the Guardian? But then the entire point of the video was about how it was being reported.
Yes.
And how it was wrong. Because otherwise I wouldn't have made the video. Mm-hmm. That's the factual part that I was trying to get across, was that the reporting of the issue was wrong.
So the public is seeing all these articles and straight away going,
it's the farmers' fault.
What are these farmers doing?
Yes.
You know, they're destroying this and destroying that. Because and you're trying to say then, no, it's not.
Well, it's coming out saying, you know, it's like one of the headlines was it was a runoff from agriculture.
Yes. So what actually has caused it, and this is now, if there was a Belfast Telegraph article I read today, and I actually read it and thought it was really balanced, and it explained what I've just about to explain, but none of that was out there last weekend.
Okay.
Because I tried to find it. Okay. Two factors really affected the amount of algae in Lough Neagh this year. It's the record high for temperatures of the water in the loch.
Yep.
17.4 degrees on average. So toasty.
Yeah, that's
warm.
That's very warm.
The algae is actually a bacteria.
Yes.
So if you imagine, it's an exponential growth. If you increase the temperature even a small bit, it's going to make that bacteria grow even faster.
Yes.
And the other thing which blew my mind, and I've had confirmed as a fact, was that because nitrates pollution into the loch had dropped, that allowed the algae to grow more because it was releasing phosphorus from the lake bed. So the phosphorus in the lake bed, it binds to iron.
Okay.
And the decrease in nitrates allowed that iron to release the phosphorus. If that makes sense. So them two factors had the biggest effect. The research paper which I used, which was about Lough Neagh, gave such a clear summary at the end.
Yes.
That I think that was what made it go a little bit viral.
Right.
Because it was so definitive. And it was written in 2021.
Yep.
And it literally said, this is going to happen. It like predicted the future, which again really helped make it credible.
That's what you're saying. You need to be able to support those facts.
Yes.
And look, here, what we're seeing is,
and I suppose
it's shocking, but
with a lot of things, there's something really bad has to happen for.
But the thing as well is it that bad? This is what's really surprised me about the last 2 weeks, is that it's an algae bloom on Lough Neagh. It's a natural substance. It's not killed any fish. It's going to go away. It's just got out of control. It's a bacteria. You can get exponential growth if you get perfect conditions. And the winds blew, because they were consistently in one direction for a long period of time. You had videos of people sticking sticks into like a foot of algae. But they were going and finding little coves where it settled and blowing into a corner.
Yes,
it wouldn't have been ashore then, There's
videos of people out in boats, and yes, it looked green. But it was them really bad videos of like a foot thick of algae. That's what people had in their head then when they thought of algae in Lough Neagh.
Yes. Well, like
Portano Marina is bad with it, to be fair.
It is bad.
Like the band's bad with it.
The band's very bad with it.
And Port Stewart Strand, because obviously that's where the band meets the sea.
Yeah, that's the mouth of it.
There's reports that because it's so toxic to dogs, that you don't allow your dog to go near.
Well, it was in Lough Erne last year. It didn't get media coverage, but it was really bad in Lough Erne last year.
Really?
Yes.
See, people just tend to forget about people
and
from
Fermanagh. I didn't believe them when it said it would make me sick. And it was really nice weather, and I was like, I'm going in the lake. I want to wakeboard. So I went in the lake 2 days in a row. I was probably in the water like 5 hours with all this algae floating around, and I got sick the day after. I didn't know it was a bacteria, to be fair.
So it is harmful. This
I mean, if
harmful.
you spent 5 hours on it, maybe. I didn't die.
So always positive?
Always a positive, yeah. So that was Monday, and then a TikToker called Whitney N.I.
Yes.
She posted a video on Monday as well, but she posted the opposite side. So she basically took what the media was saying, news reports, and just collated it into a really nice video, and was saying like something needs to be done. Okay, she actually didn't give her opinion in that video. It was just reporting on the media.
Yes. But
all of the farmers who had seen my video then tagged me in it and were like, go watch Farm Theory, go look at this. So she watched my video, and then she stitched my video and replied to it and was like, okay, I didn't realise this. This is really interesting. This is the other side. And that was really like a rocket under my TikTok.
See, if that research wasn't available,
yes,
the farmer probably wouldn't have a leg to stand on because the information or the data was not there to support it.
Yes, but I know, like, woo-woo alarm, this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. This is just a fact, okay? The media were doing freedom of information requests to DAERA the whole time. They were getting sent that research, but somehow it never made it into the public.
I mean, people in general, I think, and our listeners of this podcast are predominantly farmers, or even if they're not, maybe I don't want to say they're sympathizers, but, they're mechanically minded, I guess, a lot of our listeners. So they probably will lean, towards this. I think it's very, very easy for the media to scapegoat farmers because a lot of the general public get annoyed with them, with the big machinery and late at night doing the silage and being slow on the roads and all this here. I think it's very, very easy to gear people up to go, oh, well, sure, the farmers are out spreading slurry, so of course it's the slurry.
And to be fair, like, It is largely our fault as well, in that historically, the reason the phosphorus is there in the lake is because of bad farming practices.
Yeah.
Like, we have a responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the best kind of, not misinformation, but like, the reason it's so effective is because there is some truth. Like, it's not a ridiculous statement. It's just that in this case, this year, there was other factors which made it so bad. And that's all my video addressed, because I did not come out and say, hold on a minute, this is nothing to do with farming, this isn't our fault, because that would be very, very, very easy to make knowing that is not true. So choose your words carefully.
You need to be credible.
You need to be credible, yes. But, and like, this will be like the finish, I suppose, of this topic about Lough Neagh, but I listened to Stephen Nolan's show today. So today's Friday.
Yes.
Okay, did you listen to it?
I haven't listened to it yet, and to be truthfully told, I think Stephen Nolan's show in general is a cesspit for all the people in society who don't want things to change.
That could very well be accurate. I don't think I've ever listened to it before, but I listened to it today.
I typically word like this.
But
what happened then?
This will blow your mind, right?
Okay. Go for it.
This will actually blow your mind. The research I showed shows that the decrease in nitrates, was what led to the phosphorus being released in the bloom. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense, because farmers have just not been sowing nitrogen fertiliser this year.
Yeah.
Because of the price.
There's a trend.
There's a trend. The entire hour and a half of Stephen Nolan's show today was based around nitrates and how nitrates pollution was causing the bloom. And the entire thing was based around excess nitrogen coming from dairy farms. So you've got confused looks in your faces. That is exactly what I had. And I messaged a few people, again, people who would know, people whose jobs it is to know. And every one of them came back and like, yeah, I have no idea what nitrates has got to do in this argument. It's entirely phosphorus. So how can a show that's meant to be so credible and sounds so believable when you listen to it get the entire direction of focus wrong? It's insane.
Because sensationalism sells.
I don't think so. We had our Ulster Farmers Union Deputy President on the show today on Nolan, and we had an Environment Committee meeting to prepare him last night, and I was on it.
Right.
And we spent the whole night talking about phosphorus, graphs and everything.
Yes.
And he went on the show today and talked about nitrates the whole time, didn't once mention phosphorus. How does that happen? And the reason is, you can cut this bit out if you want, I don't mind, but the reason is because the phosphorus problem has come from the poultry industry. They have increased massively the number of poultry houses in the country. And
that's why, because of Lough Neagh, I have heard that it's quite hard to get planning now for poultry houses.
You basically can't,
Because there's
ammonia and phosphorus. And all intensive industries like pig and poultry, they import all of their feed. That's where the phosphorus is coming from.
Okay.
It's coming from imported feed, right? And they're responsible for the increase in phosphorus. And yet all of the blame today on Nolan was entirely on nitrates, which is against the dairy farmer. You've no idea how deep Moy Park's pockets are. Like, there is something weird going on there, because you cannot have people who are experts and get it that wrong.
What happens, though, do you think, when we're guaranteed there's more people in the earth every day when they need fed?
I get this argument, but I will say that our government will happily let agriculture go to the wall, and the examples are countless. You have the textile industry, you have the shipbuilding industry, you have the steel industry, you have the coal industry. Like, they are happy for them things to be shipped offshore.
Yeah, because it's some stuff that's deemed harmful over here, but if we put that on China,
yes, exactly,
that our numbers go down to zero, and the transport is negated. So China countries, China, Russia, South America, Brazil, for example, countries that do not care about their rates of pollution, they just work away. But we're going, we're great. Two Johnnies talked about this recently as well. Like, we're great, we're getting zero.
A good example is, it is totally impossible that agriculture gets to net zero. Yeah. No one I have ever spoke to has said it's even possible. But yet, you have the NFU coming out a few years ago and setting a net zero target for 2040. All the supermarkets have net zero targets for their entire supply chain by 2040 or 2050.
But you can do that by fudging numbers.
Yes, but it's unbelievable.
Correct. Completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what they're doing is right, but you can, for instance, you can say, here's a perfect example. You can say, on average, and make a statement.
Yes.
But you've got 3 different types of average.
Yes.
Mean, median, and mode.
Choose your base year.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
but this is the thing. If they all know that this is just really marketing, and they're not using science, they're just trying to support their own objectives and goals and direction of heading, that is why I think it will all quietly be fudged and sort of, I don't think we'll ever be actually at net zero.
Well, the whole ammonia thing, I think anyway, for farmers, and it's like a new quota. We did have milk quota, and it's like ammonia is now going to be the new milk quota.
Yes. Well, you have nitrates, and then you have ammonia. Nitrates is the 170 kilogram limit, and that's what they're cutting in Southern Ireland, which is causing the reduction in herd numbers. Okay. That's why Nolan chatted about it all day today, was because he got confused by the Southern Ireland is cutting nitrates. But that's our quota. That is our quota. And that's going to be really, really hard for farmers. Add on top of that the legislation coming on phosphorus and phosphorus limits. That's going to be really hard on farmers. Add on top of that the climate change legislation and the suggested draft policies which DAERA are bringing in. They would terrify you. And they're bringing them all in because they're desperately trying to meet their 30% reduction by 2030. And it is going to be catastrophic for farms, like livestock farms. And if you bear all that in mind in the context of what has happened to other industries, and like farmers will say, well, they need food, they can't let us go to the wall, they'll change their mind.
Just bring it in from
they'll just import it then.
France,
they'll just import it.
Wherever else.
I am increasingly pessimistic about the future for farming.
In this country.
Which is mind-boggling. And the only way to change it is through politics. And have you ever heard of the BBB party in the Netherlands? No?
No.
The BBB?
The BBB. You haven't heard of this?
No.
This is incredible.
Right.
So the nitrates legislation in the Netherlands, they're about 15 years ahead of us on legislation around environment.
Uh-huh.
And it got to the point where the government in the Netherlands was forcibly buying out farms. Okay? So you had no choice, you were selling your farm.
I don't like the sound of that.
No, neither did people in the Netherlands. So there was a political party called the BBB set up like 2 years ago. They were a single issue party. Uh-huh. And they won the election at the start of the year in the Netherlands Senate. Uh-huh. They only got, I think it was 17 or 18% of the vote, but because they're
single issue.
Yeah, and because the way the Netherlands government works, there's no large parties, so they were the majority in the Senate, and they ended up collapsing the government. So now the Netherlands have an election at the end of the year, and it was because of a single issue party around ammonia. So, and it's the only way the Dutch farmers got something stopped, and the BBB has now rolled back on it a little bit because they have to work in a coalition if they're going to have any power.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So now they've just delayed the closing of farms to 2035. But the point is, the only time they achieved anything was by having a political party. And I can absolutely see it getting to that point here as well.
I don't know, because it'll be, do you support orange ammonia or green ammonia?
Yes, but you need, that's why it has to be single issue.
Yes.
It has to cut across both sides.
Yes, absolutely.
You cannot have...
I suppose at the same time, it's wonderful what happens when you back humans into a wall.
See, from TikTok, I have had so much support around the video in Lough Neagh, and I think the public will back farming. It's just... you have to present it in a way that makes it human.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Easily makes sense.
People need to see the families on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, you could have an environmentalist ranting and raving on Nolan about the disgrace that farming is doing and the damage to the environment, and you take him to a family farm that he's just called like a factory farm, like my farm.
Yeah. Or Connor's.
And it's me and my dad, with 180 cows out in the field.
Yeah.
They'll soon change their tune.
Yep. And they see how well livestock are treated. I actually have quite a bit of a problem. I don't particularly like factory farms. I think they're a bit...
I would agree with you.
I like seeing cows out the grass.
If you see the average dairy farm now, quite a lot of them have went, we have For cows, a foot trimmer comes in.
Yeah.
So they've got, they get their nails done. They get the proper diet. We purposely cut silage at certain times so they get the best possible diet.
Yeah.
So they've got nutritionists. They're provided. We spend serious money on more comfortable mats for them to lie down on, because at the end of the day, a happy cow.
But the public don't know this.
You've invested in a robot that cleans.
This is a great segue into the next part of my crazy week, which was that woman Whitney N.I. who reposted my video.
Yes.
To make up for accusing farmers incorrectly, she offered to come and work for a day for free in my farm.
Yes.
So today, she travelled down to my farm. This townie, as she calls herself, she doesn't have a clue about farming. And she got to drive a tractor, milk a cow, bring the cows in. I had to explain to her what silage was.
Yes. Most people think silage is slurry.
No. That's what she thought.
Yeah.
This blew my mind.
Yeah. Most people think silage is slurry.
But it was hilarious. She is honestly one of the most genuine people I've ever met. I cannot speak highly enough of her.
That's
and
class.
She's 155,000 followers on TikTok.
That's probably helped blow
and
you up.
they are all people not from agriculture. All of her followers are totally different demographic. And she is going to be posting a video about what a dairy farm is like and about with me, so that people will have to realise that there's a person behind this thing of a polluting dairy farm. And after the crazy week we've had in Northern Ireland around Lough Neagh and being attacked, I think it'll do a lot of good. And her video on Lough Neagh, which was reporting on the press, it has over 500,000 views. So it went everywhere. So for her to put that video up on Monday, and by the end of the week,
to change
and be posting a video on a dairy farm, that will have such an effect on the people who see that.
Yep.
And
fair play to her.
Yeah, honestly, one of the most down-to-earth, genuine, nice people that I've met in a very long time.
But there's one thing I will say, Andrew, and it's not to offend anyone, but you're obviously extremely well educated and you know where to look and you know all about it. So you obviously did chemistry possibly at school.
I did, but I just like numbers and
I can relate to that.
I have a weird mix. So I love numbers. I'm a farmer, but I also love reading research papers and science, and I love an argument.
Yeah, you're not scared of...
No.
I've noticed that.
No.
Me and Conor, I think, would both be quite... We would tend to sit in the fence.
But if you were questioned on it, you have the research, you've read the paper, you can back yourself up with it.
Like Whitney today said to me, why do you not go on Stephen Nolan? You'd be brilliant at this. And tons of farmers have messaged me, both comments and privately, being like, why don't you go on Nolan? And I was like, Whitney, if I went on Nolan, I would be destroyed.
Yep. You could
he controls what happens in that show.
Yep.
He cuts you off when he wants.
Yep.
So I was like, Whitney, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what he said on his show and I'm going to make a response video where I control the timeline.
Correct.
I control what I address. So I do to him what he would do to me. That's why I stick to TikTok.
Very good.
It's a good idea. And it's even crazy. This is how mental my week's been. I haven't even mentioned Red Tractor, which was like... Yeah, that's another view. That video on Red Tractor now has 190,000 views. It's actually about NAFCC, but yeah.
And how many people have sort of said to you, you've shot yourself in the foot?
A lot of people said
buggered.
That.
You are now going to get spot inspections.
It is. So I made a video a few months ago. No, it's probably only about a month ago, and I got 80,000 views about Red Tractor, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're in so much trouble now. Oh my goodness." And then this week, I got a letter of suspension on Wednesday, to my horror. And I made a video about it, and it has went very viral.
Yeah, it has.
Very viral. But yeah, I was granted an extension. They will not accept that I have no way to fix the non-conformance. So at the minute, I just have to continuously ask for extensions. And the only way that I can get out of this, it's about my herd list, because the new DERA system isn't working. So I have no way to get my herd list. And the only way, after 2 hours of meetings, like going into OMA to the DERA office, that they might be able to solve it is if I remove my parents from the herd list. So because of a non-conformance, because they would not accept talking to someone on the end of a phone, and the inspector insisted it had to be on my computer screen in my office because I couldn't log in the day of inspection. I am now going to have to remove my parents from the herd list.
And how do you get them back on?
I have no idea. It's going to take a heap of paperwork to get them off the herd list. My dad is raging about it.
But why are you taking your parents off the herd list?
Because the new system, the DERA set up joint IDs for herds with more than one person authorised.
Okay.
So the joint IDs were never put into the new system. So whenever it transferred over to the new system, the joint IDs messed everything up. So if you have a herd with 3 names on it, you cannot log in.
Are you buggered?
There's no, because there's only one on mine.
Same as me.
So you're lucky. So
we actually tried to get me on, and the paperwork was just like...
It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. It is, and so, I thought the paperwork was actually quite hard. Now, I'm not the best at understanding things anyway. Like, great with numbers, terrible with words. I thought the paperwork was very... The way they ask you the questions didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you know what? No, I'm just not doing
I went
this.
in on Monday and signed authorization forms that was meant to fix it. And then I phoned back on Wednesday, and the woman on the phone was like, no, we're just telling people to do that. We have no idea what's going to fix this.
Then how do you...
I have no way to fix Red Tractor. The Ulster Farmers Union policy officer had a meeting with them about me. The Dale Farmer Liaison head guy had a meeting with them. They're just, no, that's it. Now, you could argue, they did chat about me after my first video. And like, I know because I seen texts from a friend of mine who knows a girl who works there, and they were like, oh, they're raging. He was waving about the NAFCC logo. They went and looked up all of my non-conformances and were telling other people what they wear and stuff outside of the company.
That's GDPR.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So like, they all chatted about me, and they're all raging at me. So, and the fact they're so awkward now is just, and like, they wouldn't reply to say they got my emails, and like, but if they want to start a war, I'm all for it. I'm taking them down. I am.
But by
being
them.
Yeah, well, my approach is going to be just to try to encourage other farmers that you can't, although it hasn't really worked because they've screwed me over, but to like speak up. You know, if they do something to you, tell the public. Like, I have done more damage to the Red Tractor brand in the last week than anything I've ever seen before, and they don't even get it. They don't care. They think they're untouchable. You can't have that many people watching a video with hundreds of comments, not one positive, slating them for being like bullies and dictators and horrible people.
Everyone
I'm
hates
not
Red
going to
Tractor.
lie, see, before the inspection, you are
So stressed.
Fucking hell, it's unreal.
That was one of my friends. We had a big chat about what we could do about it. And one of the things we sort of thought was, would it be worth trying to get people to fill out a survey or something? I tried to get the Ulster Farmers Union to go along with it. They just are so weak, they won't do anything. And just rank like things which are causing stress or like worry for farms.
Yeah.
And just put Red Tractor in there and like try to get the message out like that Red Tractor abuses farmers, because they do. That's what they're doing.
So how do you think Red Tractor's vibes are about you at the minute?
They really don't like me. And it's an ongoing battle. There will be another video about the lake. There will be another video about Red Tractor. People just love it. And I think, both them videos, what I've realised is that farmers and the rural community, not just farmers, they are so, so desperate for someone to fight their corner and someone to stand up for them. And that is what I've capitalised on, is that there's this void because people aren't willing to do anything.
Yeah.
They all have interests, or I just don't understand why they don't, but it's just me. I'm the only one who said anything.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When I seen your video, I was baffled because it was obviously such a concrete conclusion about Lough Neagh.
Yeah.
But can I go on a wee tangent?
Yes.
Speaking of Red Tractors, how do you find your 8S?
Oh, I'm a big fan. So I didn't mean to buy it.
I'm a massy man.
I accidentally bought it.
How can you accidentally buy it?
I hate it when I go out and accidentally buy that brand new
Yeah.
that I've been looking up.
So my local Massey Ferguson dealer, he was really keen to give me a demo.
Okay.
But I was like, it doesn't really suit, whatever. But he was really keen. And he actually drove it to me one evening when I was doing silage. He was keen. Within half an hour driving that tractor, I was like, oh no, I have to buy this. This is just luxury. It's so nice.
Were you typically a Massey man before that?
We were, but we did have a case. And I actually had pretty much planned to buy a case to replace the Puma, like to go alongside with it. And then I priced the two. And the 8S, unbelievably, was much better value.
Really?
Seriously?
Much more than people would think.
Well, did you go for a Dyna 7?
Yes, the VT would have been a new order, and it also had to be the exclusive spec.
Yes.
So the VT was adding like 20 grand.
Because for the likes, I take it goes on your JF, because you obviously do your
does. So the problems with the Dyna 7 are usually whenever they're used for towing heavy tankers all the time. The gearboxes just aren't heavy enough for like 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
But because we're using it really the power for the JF, the harvester, hopefully we'll not have any issues.
Because having looked at other videos of people using it and that, because they're using the 9 Series Fendt Vario gearbox in the 8S,
yes,
they're fairly bulletproof.
Yes,
supposedly.
No, if you're going to buy one now, and there won't be as big a difference, it's because I had a one in stock versus new order.
Yeah,
I would 100% buy the VT.
Have you ever drove a Vario before?
No, and everyone who tells me says never drive one because you'll want to change all your tractors to Vario.
Have you ever drove an automatic car?
Yes, we have. I have one. Yeah.
Literally the exact same experience.
Yeah.
So with you and in the JF,
it'd be really good.
Oh, it would be night and day.
No, the Dyna 7 gearbox is brilliant on the road. Like you couldn't fault it. See in the field, really stupid. Like just stupid.
Okay.
Like whoever built it. They actually gave me a software update last week, so they might have improved it a lot. People say it's made a big difference, so we'll see what that's like. But
what other tractors do you have in the farm then?
We have a Puma 195.
So you still have the case, or
we kept it. She's
Range Command?
No, I don't know what Power Command.
Straight down.
It's boosted up to like 250.
Yeah,
to run the JF.
Yeah,
but the reason why I bought the 8S, one of the reasons was I felt like it was a lot of pressure on the Puma.
Okay.
That JF is...
What is it, a 1060?
1260.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
so basically a self-propelled reel in that.
It takes all of the 8S's 285 horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, sorry for another tangent.
That's okay.
You're obviously a numbers farmer.
Yes.
Does it pay to do your own silage?
The way I put it to people is no, it's the same price. Because it varies so much. Okay. So the 8S, the depreciation on it this year is like £120 an hour. So it's completely skewed my figures. It's now costing me like £60 an acre for everything. So it's about the same as a contractor.
Right.
And if you went back 4 or 5 years, I would have been sitting here telling you it's much cheaper to do my own silage, but that's because I was using older equipment.
Yeah.
But the big benefit, which no one ever thinks about, which again blows my mind, is that when the milk price crashes, like it has now, okay, the actual cost to my cash flow is the fuel and the labour.
Yeah.
Okay? Whenever the milk price is good, I can invest in machinery, buy equipment, buy the JF. So on a cash flow basis, it is much better to do your own grass. Alongside of that, you can do cuts whenever you want. Flexibility.
For me is what would drive me down that route.
But then you could argue and say that whenever you get the contractor in, if something happens, like a big break, it's their problem, not yours.
Yes.
And whenever you're spending big money in equipment, because it's not cheap anymore.
No, it's definitely not.
As well as with having 180 dairy cows, you're missing out on things because you're trying to get grass in.
The labour argument and the time commitment is the 100% the valid reason to use a contractor. Like that's why I would say
it's hard to get labour.
No, I don't actually. I had like 4 or 5 people message me this week from TikTok looking for a job. So
come up.
I definitely don't. But my approach with people around silage time and labour for silage is that I pay them whatever they ask. So people know that I will pay them more than everyone else.
Okay.
So if I ask people to help me, they'll be there.
Aye.
And that takes away the stress of trying to get help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which makes the whole thing just easier. So... yeah.
Did you buy the 8S straight then?
Yes, I bought it new. I did not pay for it with cash. There's a 2% fixed interest rate for 5 years, so I was basically paid to borrow the money.
Fair enough.
Which again is kind of crazy, but yeah, no, it was good. It was 140,000. That's cheaper than that. That's cheaper. And a 7S 180 today would be setting you back like 128, and the interest rate is 6% versus my 2%. And I bought the 8S this time last year.
But interest rates have...
Yes, but
so you bought it this time last year. So
yes.
That same tractor... So we have a 6... Well, she's now the old version.
Yes.
But a 6... why am I being actually stupid?
You can't...
6... 715S.
Yes. Why am I actually...
What's that? A 6715?
No, pocket rocket.
Right, okay, yeah.
6715.
Yes.
Okay.
6715.
My mind.
You're thinking of like a 6S 150 or something, which would be what your tractor would
so
be.
we have the older version, and what now is all the silver cabin.
Yes.
And they told us that new version of ours is 100k.
Yeah. Now, it sounds a lot, and I'm not defending machinery prices, but we have a 3000 series Massey, a 3115, and we bought that new in 1993. And whenever our local dealer delivered that to us in 1993, that was the biggest tractor he had ever sold. Okay, and he's a big dealer.
Yeah.
And in 1993, it was £33,000, which is equivalent.
70,000.
It's 76,000 today, right? You park the 3115 beside the 8S, you can 100% see where the value has went and understand why it's twice the price.
The equivalent 150 horsepower tractor in 05 or 06
was way cheaper.
Yeah.
Was 45
Yes, we bought our 6465 in 2004, and it cost us £40,000.
Which is probably the equivalent of 60,000 today.
More.
No. 2,000.
Probably wouldn't. You're probably right.
About 60,000 today. Yeah.
Well, they say it's all to do with like AdBlue, the emissions, and all the cost is going.
Also, there's been a lot of consolidation within the manufacturers. Like AGCO owns like 4 brands now. Then you've John Deere. So like, there's a lot of
part sharing.
Yeah.
Modularity.
Yeah, and they're making a lot more money, and they have more control over.
Yeah.
You know, and farmers also now, they want a higher tech, higher spec tractor. Mm-hmm. So the ability for someone to start new or competition to come in from other countries is very limited. So they've kind of got themselves a nice wee market, to be fair.
It's true, because like even the likes of Kubota and all are kind of starting to come up a bit, but
it's not the same machine. Whereas maybe 10 or 20 years ago, when it was just a manual gearbox, they were essentially the same machine. Yeah. But machinery does pay, but I'll be honest, I just do like machinery. If I decide I want something, it's very hard to stop me.
You just need to make the numbers work so you can afford to buy it.
Like any good person with numbers, you can fudge them to make it work.
And on that note, we'll finish it there.
Yeah, I think we could talk literally all night.
And we probably will keep talking off air.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely.
No problem.
For the short notice as well.
No, it's been interesting.
And thanks for making the effort to come all the way down here.
It was no problem. I like a drive.
You did say that.
Helps relax my brain because it never switches off otherwise.
And hopefully we were good enough interviewers to...
No, it was very interesting. It was very good, yeah. I was worried you were going to make me talk about cars. I've got very little to say about cars.
This is actually farming. So we do 2 episodes cars, 1 episode farming, and every 3rd episode is farming related.
Did you own a Tesla?
No.
You didn't? Oh, I thought I picked up on that once.
No, I'm quite anti-electric. Connor, I have to say, that was a pretty interesting one. Like,
you didn't know how to speak.
I think in the edited version, which in reality will come out, it doesn't capture how little I spoke during that whole time.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't really notice.
No, because like even you'll hear it in like the original version, but if like there's like times where like I try to move it on, and then you're like, but do you have this system? And then like you start talking about it again. I was sitting there for like another 3 minutes going, are we not going to talk about the the TikTok and Red Tractor and all that, and then it's like, right, well, okay, so what about this? Have you got this though? It was nice to see. Like,
does it feel weird to see someone do what you do?
Yeah, the main character syndrome, can't have it. No, jokes aside, like, as I say, I think
it was an unbelievable conversation, I have to say.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is, I think it would be an absolute shame for it not to be heard, especially if you are a dairy farmer. There are boys that would like listen, and we have had quite a few people messaging us saying that like they listen to us while they're in the milking parlour. So
if your day didn't get any better while you're milking the cows, well, sure, we talk about not about milking cows, but about the.
It's literally the nerdiest conversation I've ever heard about milking parlours. Like, but anyway, moving on then to the next section. So we didn't actually get time to do this with Andrew because
we forgot.
And ran out of time.
We were like, oh yeah, we were meant to do this with you, but like to be honest with you, it's 11:30 and you've been here since 8:30 and you need to go home.
Yeah. So, versus challenge.
Go, Michael. Give me one.
So, you're gonna undertake in like a grand tour style adventure, something in the world of deturboness and rashness, and you have to pick a travel partner. So it'd be you and someone else. If you had to pick a travel partner, would you choose Donkey 262 or Scotty Fairno?
Oh. Possibly Donkey 262.
That's okay, because it didn't really matter who you were going to suggest, because I would have picked the other one regardless.
Oh, could you imagine the two of us embarking on a journey, or even imagine them two?
No, because everyone would then concentrate on them and they'd forget about us.
Could your wee main character
can't cope? You'd be out with Donkey in a car and be like, this thing's fucking shit, hey. This car, you're fucking silly. You're trying to cut them fucking springs, hey.
To be fair though,
I can't even do a Scotty Fairno accent. Like if I tried, like
we Scotty hit a free diesel.
I'm just gonna go back to the car and pop in and all of it waste oil into the engine. I don't know.
You'd be like, bring the bed sheets.
Literally, you'd go out and it'd be like the road trip, and it'd be like, yeah, we're going to drive to Australia. No bother, just an entire back of a Volvo full of fucking.
Do you mind Top Gear made the hybrid? Do you mind Top Gear made the hybrid?
What hybrid?
Do you mind they made the wee hybrid where it was a diesel generator that was making power to an electric motor, but they like gassed themselves out because. So you would have. Possibly yourself or whatever driving. Now, this is just in theory, right? So imagine it's seated 4 people.
Right, okay.
So Scotty, he'd be making the diesel for the generator.
It'd just be the rest of us just lying fucking passed out.
You would have Donkey'd be like, take that turn down there, you silly looking her.
Hey, what are you doing that there for? The fucking turn was back there, you fucking silly her. What are you doing that for?
Fuck John Joe sat nav. Donkey 262 sat nav.
Can you imagine? Holy fuck. That's just like a new age one. That needs to happen. That needs to happen. We need a Donkey 262 soundboard.
Yes.
But what are you doing that for, you silly fucking her? But you're not but a soft her, hey. Bang.
Donkey rocks up to the challenge. What's all the blue paint for? See, I'm fucking cyclist. I get the bit of the fucking road height. Fucking hers.
Unreal. Can you top that versus challenge for me?
No. No. Do you know the way I like milking
exactly
parlours?
How I expected that.
My versus challenge for you is, do you know the way I like milking parlours? If you've, whenever you've heard the full segment.
The listeners might know that, yeah.
So, as per usual, I just thought of this there now. Michael.
Yes.
You've taken the mad notion of buying dairy cows.
God, right. Dairy cows?
Yes.
Not London dairy cows. Stephen McMullen will like that one. Anyway, what are you saying?
Oh, they'd be silly once they'd be coming in.
They'd be useless.
They wouldn't be coming in black and white. They'd be coming in God knows what colours.
They'd be coming in marching anyway.
They wouldn't be saying moo. They'd be saying moo.
Anyway, what
we are not trying to offend anybody here, by the way. We are not trying to offend anybody.
Sorry. Got ahead of myself there.
You with a wee sign outside the dairy saying free
dairy. You're now entering free dairy, but it's spelled DAIRY.
Fuck those who are lactose intolerant.
Ulster says moo. Right, go on. This is such bad podcasting.
You would have fucking GPS in the fucking Fiat, and you'd be spreading fertilizer, and it'd be like Donkey in the background going, "You're fucking spilling it, sir. You're overlapping."
Oh god, that's one of my biggest crimes too. Whenever I'm fertilizer spread, not fear to like missing a gap. But anyway, back to your question. What are you asking them?
So you have bought milk cows.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Would you rather have a 10 swing over parlour or a 10 doubled up?
Doubled up.
Fair enough. That
just answers that one.
Well, yes, I thought there might be a bit of deliberation.
No, doubled up.
Be.
We had doubled up. Doubled up's a great job because you can be filling. You can have one sitting going and have the other like released.
Well, they say our 14 side would be the same output as a 10 doubled up.
Really?
Mm-hmm. With doubled up, you normally would be. Depends on the size, obviously, and many people you have in it, but yeah. So swing would take another couple of units to be the same output.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But it'd be more like a one person or. Like
I know. For you, I think doubled up works well if you have two people in the parlour, or one person on Duracell batteries.
Well, now on from the offending the country.
Time for a bit of big old skid and one wheel pills.
Right, I'll start with one big old skid.
Right, go ahead.
Do you know, AI is a marvellous thing and an absolute probably disaster.
It's terrifying, Connor. It's absolutely terrifying.
Right, but I'm sure as a child you grew up possibly watching The Simpsons.
Yes.
Right. You know,
got banned from it watching 3 or 4 times because my ma, God love her, is really like, she just like any swear words or anything when you were like younger, she just would have tried to have wrapped you in
The
cotton
Simpsons
wool.
didn't have any
No,
swear words.
well, there's actually one episode where Homer meets his
oh, you've obviously
brother.
watched it then.
No, but Homer meets his like half brother.
Oh,
and
yes.
like Bart says, "When can we meet the bastard?" And Homer's like, "Bart, don't say that word." And he's like, "No, well, like technically a bastard is a child with no parents or something like that." There, and Marge is like, "Yeah, he's actually right, Homer." So Bart just keeps going, "Bastard, bastard, bastard, bastard." Of course, Mum walks in during that.
I was about to say, you know, I was being kilt for watching South Park, but that's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, no, South Park's rash, like.
But yes, so obviously Luke Combs is doing very well in the charts.
Yes.
And I never thought that Homer Simpson would be a great country singer. Homer Simpson is unreal country singer.
Yeah, have you heard Cartman singing Evanescence, Bring Me to Life?
No.
It's scary. That club's got vocals.
You know, I know Richie Ramo's good with Hit the Diff, and I know Marty Moon's very good with Hit the Diff, but Homer Simpson hits different.
Holy shit. That was such a good pun.
Go on TikTok and search Homer Simpson. It is, like, obviously doing different songs. It is... I was blew away by it. Definitely blew away by it. Oh, and Peter Griffin also gets in on the acting side of the song.
Yeah, I've seen
too.
a few of them, yeah.
Other big old skid would be...
I wasn't even remotely car-related.
You could listen to it in the car, lad.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
I am the one that comes up with the tunes.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that one, yeah. Not sure if Patsy agrees, but anyway.
Patsy just always has his mouth open regardless.
True.
The other one was basically Conor Shanahan and his chase run, but we've already discussed that
as well. Like, I've written that down.
Go on ahead, you boy. You have a list here.
I do. I have a few big old skids.
We'll now pass you over to the main man himself that comes up and does all the research. So go on ahead, Michael.
Have you seen Brian O'Connor's with 2 Zs on TikTok? It's a red 405.
Probably have, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Fucking class. I love 405s. We all know this. I love 405s. This one's a red one. I think it's on Vortexes. It's absolutely class. I wrote this down when I seen it, and this was like 2.5 weeks ago or something. Unreal. Also, a list. No, well, that's actually a big. That's next on the list. That's a one-wheel pill. I was buying a caliper there recently off a lad in outside Ballyclare for the 300. She said she's a caliper on the way up from Dublin there last week, 2 weeks ago. And anyway, couldn't get one new at the time I needed it, so I got a second-hand one from a fella who breaks them outside Ballyclare. And you know where the Lexus, the engine, the S200's a 1 GFE? He was like, yeah, Lexus, one good fucking engine. It's been living in my head rent-free ever since. I have to say they are deadly underpowered and sound very annoying.
I was about to say, until you turn them on.
You cannot kill them.
No, you can't.
You cannot kill them.
Well, you can, but you have to be very rash.
Or doing what Stephen McMullen did, strap a turbo to it.
Or
with a boost gate, with an actuator basically like
or
welded shut.
How else do you kill them? And you're Stevie. You just lose the keys.
Ah, yeah.
You can't start.
Yeah, there's that. Hugh Barr was saying, we were chatting, and I'd put up a poll a couple of weeks ago about like who watches on YouTube, and Hugh Barr said, he goes, he's like, I'll actually watch you if I'm out in the model shed. So he makes like, he has like models, farm models, like dioramas and stuff. I fucking love that shit. I think it's so cool. So we need to go see that.
We do need to go see that.
So he's sending me a video of him watching us whilst round the shed. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's down on Instagram as hollyhall.de. They have a Capri. It's absolutely unbelievable. Just pure race car. If you want to see it, go look at it. It's kind of like a futuristic take on a retro car, but it's a real car. It's absolutely class. Adam McCartney sent me boys doing Combine Derby.
Yes.
And then Reese Bruce topped it with a fella on a horse and cart, where he sends a boy on a horse, goes out with a cart, and he goes into this big stony open area, and he literally gets the horse to like start spinning around, and it literally just drags the cart after him, and he's literally diffing with a horse.
Ironically, do you know that horses are not 1 horsepower? They're 11.
I thought it was 15.
Oh, I don't know then, alright then. Maybe 15. I thought I would catch you off guard with that, but no, obviously I didn't.
And then there's another fella called Gaz Golab on Instagram or TikTok, one of the two, and he does like a video, you know, where there's all like that Bentley.
Oh,
well, this one here's like Lada, but it's like pure Russian, but it's not what you see, what you think. It doesn't really rip the piss out of her. It kind of rips the piss of him just going through a car. And at one point, I'm pretty sure he smokes the exhaust.
Right. There's
Don't
one
do that, kids.
Where where it's like Bentley, and then all you hear is me going, "Pardon the ears, people." D-turbo.
Is it you? I haven't seen that video yet. You talked about that in last week's podcast, or a couple podcasts from Vicky there, but I never seen that video. I'd love to see that. That'd be fucking hilarious.
It's just D-turbo.
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 That's really, really funny.
But it's in before we got slightly better with sound, so it's like D-turbo.
D-turbo. That's how you sound it. And finally,
calm down.
On my big old skids, which is actually a big old skid, was Paul Higgins put up on his Insta there. He was at Retro Stock, which is an event I'd love to do, but car's not mapped, and at the minute not financially secure enough to do it. He took the Mark 1 down. He's a Mark 1 Escort 5-door. Not fucking feared. You give it stacks. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of other class cars at Retro Stock. In fact, I know for a fact there was. But just Paul, like a Mark 1 Escort, he's done a lot of work to it. Like, it's pristine. And then he's driving the absolute fucking shit out of it. Class.
Sorry, just a wee big old skid for me to add to it. We all know by now the sound in TikTok that says you need a big Trans sticker up the side of her because she's some boss. Trans use that in their own TikTok.
You know what? They could do a better video editing, but the irony is absolutely unreal.
Brilliant.
You need a big Trans sticker up the side of her for she is some boss.
Do you mind the boss went into the sea all the same? You need to say that then, but she's not some boat.
That's right. That was a while ago, wasn't it?
That was a while ago.
Jesus, I mind hearing about that. A couple of one-wheel pills. And I didn't know whether to put this down as a big old skid, because it technically was a big old skid, or a one-wheel pill. But Adam Fletcher, one of the listeners, sent me a video of an electric S15 drift car. Now, I don't dispute the advantage that having instantaneous torque from an electric engine / drivetrain gives you. But for me, 50% of drifting is the sound.
Oh, most definitely.
And literally just just constant lemmy bashing all the time. That's what I want to hear. And to smell that sweet, sweet Panta 118. You don't get that with an electric car. All you hear is whoosh, whoosh.
Start the Dyson.
Literally, it sounds like it just... I've seen the electric rally cars. And, I appreciate the engineering behind them. But fuck, I do not like them.
Well, it just takes away. Well, it's like anything. You go to something and it's a spectacle because your sound, your smoke, and all that carry on. Take away one of those things, it's much more of a spectacle.
You'll still have the smoke, but you just don't have the sound. You just don't have that. He's sitting in his door, listen to that V8 go, listen to that 2JZ sing. Part of the fun with drifting, I think, is the fact that, holy shit, he's got a rotary. Holy shit, hear that man's V8. It sounds like that V8 sounds like a rotary. In the case of Lough Neagh, all the different there's an E36 here. This one's got a 2J. This one's got an M50 turbo. This one's got an RB.
This one's got a Duracell battery.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't have the same. There's so many things you can do with electric cars. You see it with the FIA, the Formula E. You can do fan boost, and you can do power ups, kind of as if you were driving a Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing. You can do that kind of shit, which is kind of cool and futuristic. But at the same time, keep that shit the fuck out of drifting.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we all know that Dwayne's anti-lag is mental. He'd need to have a subwoofer the size of the car at the back of it, just playing fucking music going by.
My other one-wheel pill is me. So
you're one-wheel pilling yourself?
Yes. So if you recall back to episode 1, the full way back, because I was listening to it on the way back up from Dublin 2 weeks ago when my caliper seized, because I was kind of I want to hear the sound quality and dissect a couple of things because of a few things coming up. So I say this. Why did you go down the route of the EP3? Because, for me personally, if I was to go for a hunt, EP3 sound fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
They always have done.
Yeah.
Part of me lies with an EK9. Right, okay, so that's what I said back then. And then in the podcast with Vicky last week, when she's talking about DC2s and DC5s, I say this.
Relaxing and I just love it.
I don't protect
B series. I'm sorry. I love a K. I love a K series. I do. I love a K20, but a B series engine. Oh.
Wrong.
No, honestly.
Wrong.
Unless you've had both, you'll not understand.
So I've completely I was all nothing but a B series all the way, old school Honda, blah blah blah. And then literally last week I was has to be a K series, which A, proves I know nothing about Hondas, but B, I genuinely do think the reason why I'm so K swap is since you got Hondata.
I've been a right old prick,
but the fun, I say even we've had, because I've been sitting in the car with you, or I was following you home from Cars and Coffee a couple of weeks ago, and you're literally going out the road and it's just dun dun dun, bang bang bang, just flames, And just the sound of the faster limiter and all, it just sounds so much better.
I have to say, it's a lot of fun.
When I was in Malta, there was the DC2, like the Tune DC2, and then there was like a K20 EG, and just no comparison. In my opinion, just no comparison in the sound. Now, Honda heads will be like, oh, no, you're totally wrong, but...
Well, it depends what Honda head you're looking at.
Well, that's true.
Because you had both sides of the spectrum in the last podcast.
Yeah, so...
But also, just a wee side note, I forgot to say this, but this has happened to me that's new. My K20 is now away for winter.
Oh, aye? Well, away is maybe a strong word. It's not in the shed yet.
It's making its way at some point.
It's making its way in the shed, along with the Sierra and
so
all else. Well, apparently there's a hurricane winds coming on Wednesday. So, yeah, Sierra and the Civic's going in here. So another good reason why we need to migrate to the new shed.
Yes, we need space.
Yeah, we need space.
No.
Jinx, push you off the chair. Yeah. So I think Conor will round this one up because we've,
yes.
this is the fourth quarter of the podcast at this point. Conor, I think that's maybe enough for this week. This is looking out to be quite long.
Yes, and this is take 3 of me trying to explain this. So
you've just thrown me under the bus, you fucking prick.
So
I don't like that. Try that again. It's actually what it's like, to be fair. Hurry up, you fucking tube. Come on.
Just have to remember my name, lad, you know. So, as I have remembered my own name, I am Conor, and I am Conor.Magoo on all socials. And this has been
Michael.
Fuck me.
At Michael. Scullen _ on all socials. Look, Instagram, TikTok, the whole works.
And to be a wee professional right now, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to see all our podcasts whenever they are uploaded, even though you probably know when they're uploaded.
And if you're listening on Spotify, if you get a second, don't do this when you're driving, because you might get stopped at the place, and I don't want you to get 6 points on my behalf. But if you could leave us a review, preferably 5 stars if you're into it. If you're not into it, you can be honest, but sometimes those feelings hurt.
Subscribe as well.
Follow the podcast at Limitless Slip Differences on absolutely everything: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
I think you got it all there. TikTok.
Probably forgot something. But anyway, also follow Andrew Wright.
Yes.
At Farm Theory NA on TikTok. You will not be disappointed. Absolutely class. We probably should have asked them all that information at the end of the last podcast, but we didn't.
To be honest with you, we forgot.
Yeah. So, yeah, from me and Conor, best luck.
I'll see you in the next one.
Can be your new follow-out.